Chapter 4 was the chapter that I personally found the most informative, and this looks at how gender structures the prison system. Davis begins this chapter by talking about the very invasive internal searches that happen with female prisoners, and discusses the fact that if it weren't for this taking place within the prison system, this would be considered to be sexual assault. Davis then talks about the fact that punishment for women took on a different form than punishment for men. And I quote, "As the prison emerged and evolved as a major form of public punishment, women continued to be routinely subjected to forms of punishment that have not been acknowledged as such. For example, women have been incarcerated in psychiatric institutions in greater proportions than in prisons. Studies indicating that women have been even more likely to end up in mental facilities than men suggest that while jails and prisons have been dominant institutions for the control of men, mental institutions have served a similar purpose for women." Davis then goes on to talk about drugs, stating that psychiatric drugs continue to be distributed far more extensively to imprisoned women than to their male counterparts. From this, we see that different institutions, different forms of punishment were used depending on one's gender. The chapter then goes on to talk about the sexual violence that takes place in prisons. For women, prison is a space in which the threat of sexualized violence that looms in the larger society is effectively sanctioned as a routine aspect of the landscape of punishment behind prison walls. She then goes on to talk about a Human Rights Watch report that looks at the sexual abuse of women in US prisons.